Hey guys, so today I have another video about headphones. As you guys can see here, I have 6 different headphones. Um, I think 6 different headphones is too much for one person, at least in my opinion anyways. So I'm actually looking to choose 2 of these headphones and then kind of get rid of the rest. And it's been a very difficult choice for me because they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I've done videos on all these different headphones before. So yeah, it's hard to choose. So I want to get a second opinion on them. And so I asked my friend Eric, he's an audiophile. He's actually very knowledgeable about a lot of different things. You guys may have heard him talk about basketball in some of my previous videos before, but he's also very knowledgeable about audio and a lot of other things as well. So, and he's very sensitive to this kind of stuff. So I want to get his opinion on it. So I'm going to ask his opinion, testing these headphones. All these headphones I got for around $500 each online, around $400, $500 each online, around that range. The MSRP for these vary, but that's how much I got them for online. So going from left to right, I guess, we have two open backs here, and then the rest are closed backs. And I kind of want to choose one open back and one closed back, right? So for the open backs, we have the Beyer Dynamic DT1990 Pros, which itself I was testing against the Focal Elexes, and I decided I like this one more over the Elexes because these ones were more fun sounding. But then I got the Beyer Dynamic T1 second generations, which are also pretty interesting headphones. It's been very hard for me to choose between these 2 Beyer Dynamics. So yeah, that's kind of wanted to get his opinion on these because these 2 are pretty close in my opinion, just different strengths and weaknesses. And then these 4 closed-back headphones, which I did in a previous video. These 3 are Japanese wooden headphones. They have wooden ear cups, which I thought were pretty light, nice looking, and interesting. So we have the Denon D5200s, we have the Fostex TH610s, and then we have the Audio-Technica WP900s. And there was also a JVC HA-SW01s as well, but I didn't like that one as much. I just didn't feel like it was in the same tier as these headphones. So yeah, that one was basically I just quickly crossed out. So just these 3 remaining out of this test group, and then we have the Focal Elegias, which are a nice pair of closed backs as well. So kind of just want to test all these headphones and ask my friend first what he thinks about them, and then yeah, I'll actually go over all these headphones again, test them out some more, and give you guys our impressions of each.
They're actually both quite nice.
Yep.
I mean, they're both actually pretty neutral. I would say
That's what I thought too. Out of all the Japanese headphones, I like these 2 the best. I thought they were both fairly like neutral and balanced.
yeah. I think the Audio-Technica would be a little bit more neutral, but I think in terms of just fun, I kind of like the Fostex a bit more.
And the Fostex are bigger, like they're physically bigger, so you get like a slightly bigger sound out of that.
Yeah. I think yeah.
But yeah, try the Focals. The Focals are pretty neutral too.
Yep.
So.
I think I tried these Focals before, right? These are the ones that are more expensive now, but you bought them like for pretty cheap for use.
Retail price is more expensive.
Right.
MSRP, but actually I got them a little bit cheaper because they're hot. Like, you can get them like really huge discounts.
Right. I remember you got these for pretty cheap. How much did you get these for?
$300. Like MSRP is $900, right? So it's like literally like huge discount on these.
Exactly. I remember you got them for really cheap at $300. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's try this out.
But yeah, try them out. They should all be pretty neutral, I think. So it'll be interesting.
Focals are pretty good. I mean, they're all pretty neutral, honestly.
Yep.
But Focal is a bit more laid back. Yeah, a bit more laid back, and I think it's missing a little bit of that high-end energy. So it's missing some energy in the treble. So when you hear the drums, they don't really kick that much. Everything sounded a little bit more muted. But you know, it sounded a little more veiled, a little more muted compared to the other ones. Still good. I mean, pretty balanced, not bad.
Yeah.
I think I prefer Fostex a bit more if that's the case.
Yeah, all 3 of these are fairly neutral, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, it's kind of hard to choose.
Yeah.
Fairly
I
similar.
like the Fostex. The Fostex are a bit more
Fostex.
forward. They're a bit more forward. They added a little bit more of a bass in there, but then not too much. It's still very tasteful.
Yep.
And I think it's just right. You know, it's not
Some
too
people
bad.
said the Elegias are too bass light. Do you feel like it doesn't have enough bass?
I think it's a little bit bass light, but it's more. But I don't think it's bass light. It's just more neutral. It's just more neutral. It's fine. Yeah.
But it's just. I think most people prefer a little bit of bass. Like that's why the Fostex might be more preferable because it's maybe like most people prefer like a little bit of bass, not just totally neutral, right?
Yeah. It's just more neutral. But then the problem is, my biggest problem is, they could add maybe a touch more bass, but then at the same time they need to add a bit more treble to it because I think it's a little bit treble light too.
I see.
Yeah, just a little bit. But then that treble light actually seems to be like all across the range, because even the mids sound a little bit more muted. The mids, like it feels like the mids is missing some of like the high end mids, like the high mids.
Okay. So out of the 3 closed backs, you prefer the Fostex the most?
I think so for now, but I'm gonna do a bit more. Let's see.
Okay. If you're gonna do the open backs, you can probably try using the UA2. I think you might need the UA2 to drive that one.
I'm already using the UA2, so.
Are you ready? Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that one has a huge impedance in it. So.
But not this one. This one should still be.
That's 250 ohms, so it's a fairly like a little bit high impedance, but not that one's 600. So.
Yeah, because this one there's like 2 different versions at least in terms of the ohms. I think.
Yeah, that's 250. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you need the UA2 for that.
Yeah, the Beyers are nice.
Yeah, so these 2 open backs are not they're not neutral, and you should notice, but they're fun. So I know the DT198 Pros. Yeah, I kept these for a while because they're very fun headphones.
They're pretty nice. They're actually, honestly, like they're not that unneutral. They're actually pretty neutral too, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, the bass isn't even as strong as the Fostex.
Yeah, but I like how there's definitely like it's not neutral enough that it's very fun, I think. So that's why I like that.
But honestly, this is actually pretty neutral. But it adds just a little bit of fun to it. But it's still neutral.
Yeah.
It's still a nice headphone. I mean, so far I think these 2 are my favorites so far.
Okay, so they close back, and try add this one to the open. This is also
Sure. I'm gonna try this one more time.
Okay.
I just like the wood spinner so much.
Yep.
But this one sounds like so different from the other ones.
Yep.
This one sounds like they didn't add anything, to the sound in a way. So.
Yeah, and that one's the most portable out of all of them.
It's good. I find this one is like as I said, this one is so neutral.
Yep.
Yeah, it's actually really neutral. It's accurate, but it sounds a little bit boxy though. Maybe as it's smaller drivers.
It is the smallest out of all of them. So.
Yeah, so it sounds a bit boxy. Like the voice, the mids just kind of sound like I'm listening to some high quality radio, So it sounds kind of boxy. Whereas the other ones are just like kind of in your face.
Yeah. But it's pretty good for the size. So.
Yeah.
The size is good,
Exactly. But it's the most neutral. I think this is the most accurate sound out of all of them. But it just sounds a bit boxy to me. It sounds a bit small and boxy.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's good. It's still good. This is probably my least favorite so far.
Okay.
It's still very good, but the only reason why it's my least favorite is not because like it's more of a preference thing, but it's just that I found that they purposely kind of compensated like on too many things. Like for example, the bass. I can't say the bass is really that light. It's pretty neutral. But then for me, the biggest thing is everything sounds a little bit veiled and pushed back, almost like those earlier Sennheiser ones, like in the 200 lines.
Okay.
It's like 200 line Sennheisers, the early models, where like things are a little bit too veiled. And it's like missing like a little bit that kick in the high end. So both the mids and the drums, the highs and the mids both sound veiled.
Okay.
And that's something that I never really like about that. I don't like stuff that sounds veiled. People say, oh, it sounds relaxed, it sounds chill, but that's not what I'm looking for, in headphones.
Okay.
So it sounds like those early scents, not the upper grade scents, but those lower end ones.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they're driven properly now, but your amp is a partial tube, so it sounds a little bit warm, I guess. And then so because of that, I can't really tell whether it's the headphone themselves or because of the amp.
Wait, what about the sound overall though? With the amp.
It's not bad, but it just sounds really warm. In terms of it's the edge of a lot of the notes are kind of rolled off, which is
you don't like that, or?
I don't like that too much when it's too rolled off. Yeah, a little bit rolled off, so it sounds a little bit analog is okay, but I found like this one sounds a little bit too rolled off. Because when you roll, the thing is when you sound something that's rolled off, like on the sound spectrum, there's some things shouldn't be rolled off. Some things yes, and some things yes. But when everything's rolled off, then they put a veil over the whole thing, right? And like for example, the drums the kick drums are all rolled off, and that's not the way drums should sound. And that's why it'll make it sound unnatural. That's why like when people always like they praise like tube stuff and everything, what they don't understand is not everything should sound rolled off, because the way the voice sounds and then the way the kick drum sounds should be different. There should be some like hit on the drums, so there should be some bite. But then when people say, oh, no, it should be rolled, no, it's not, because the drums should not sound like that. The voices were rolled off, that's fine, that's more mellow, But so that's where my issue with sometimes tube stuff is that it's not going to selectively choose. Everything's going to be rolled off, and that's my issue. So I'm not sure, is it the headphone or is it the amp?
Okay, try this. I have the same saw on my DAP.
Okay.
Let's see if my DAP can drive that.
Yeah, sure.
My DAP might be able to try it. please.
This is that stupid dab with sharp edges, right?
No.
Oh, no? How much power does this one have?
I haven't tried it with this, but let's see if it has enough power.
Sure.
I'm actually not sure if this has more power. I should give it to you, but maybe it does.
Okay. Yeah, let's screw this, right? Or do you?
Yeah, the thing is, it's not. If this was balanced, it would definitely have enough power. But I'm not sure about the unbalanced output.
Right.
Because usually the balanced have way more output, right?
Yeah. The only other way to test it properly is if I bring it home to test it with my HD800s and my headphone rig.
Because probably you're looking for a solid state headphone amplifier, which
exactly. Which you don't have here, right?
I don't really. I mean, I have, but
Yeah.
it might not be as good as dry enough. Let's see if the DAP can do it.
Okay.
So I think you have the same file you do.
But yeah, this might be interesting. Yeah, well, definitely it sounds better through this.
Mm-hmm.
This has more power than the UA2.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it definitely
fine.
does.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to compare these two, I like this. This more.
This is solid state. It's not too right, so it should be.
This sounds better than this.
Yeah.
Naturally, these headphones actually are a little bit warm.
Okay.
So these are pretty a little bit warm headphones, and it's pretty good sound. But they're kind of warm, and so that's why you need to match this with a solid state. That's why I always say it's gotta be balanced. Like you can't match warm and warm.
Okay.
You match warm and warm. It's preference, obviously, right? Some people, if they want super warm, that's their problem. But this with that doesn't sound that good. This with this sounds okay. However, it lacks a little bit of soundstage. So everything's actually clumped together here.
So you say the other Beyers are better, right? In terms of
different, you know. The other ones,
they really decided between these two Beyers.
you see, it's interesting though. This one,
Yeah.
actually has a bit of they bloated the bass a little bit
Mm-hmm.
with this one, so it was bleeding into everything. There's a little bit less separation between the bloated bass in here from the other stuff. As a result, everything sounds like more squished, less soundstage. Is a warmer sound because of that too. That one is a bit more dynamic sounding, and that one has a bit more like emphasis on the bass too. But then everything at least didn't bleed, and that one is definitely less warm. If I really wanted to choose, I think I'd probably take that one. So yeah, just my opinion.
Which one do you think has more?
But if it's compared to that Beyer, okay, that Beyer. I'm talking about the Fostex. I'm talking about Fostex actually.
Oh,
this
no,
one compared to Fostex.
I'm comparing to the other Beyer.
Okay, I gotta listen to that Beyer again.
Open back to open back, right?
Yeah, I gotta listen to that Beyer again.
Let's use the same depth because this is going to be the fair comparison, so you can.
Sure.
Because these are two. They're both open back Beyers, so it's decided between these two.
Okay, sure. Let's sit here. Honestly, man, both of these, they're totally different.
Yeah.
And they're both alright, not bad, and they're both interesting.
Yeah.
But if I was to pick, because I know both of these are expensive headphones, so I personally would take neither of them.
Oh. Yeah. What if you had to pick one?
If I had to pick one, I'm really not sure. The reason is because the T1s, it just has a warm sound signature. Yeah. It's really warm. It sounds still fun, mellow, warm, but a little bit muddy, because of that warmness. Okay. And then the T1s doesn't have much soundstage, honestly, for an open back. Yeah. And also the bass. The bass is. I don't mind the bass being bloated, but just because everything's so warm, you know, it just I feel like it lacks a little bit of the kick. It doesn't have much kick in it.
Right. I think the other one has a lot of kick though.
The other one has a lot of kick, and I don't mind kick. Yeah. But they didn't balance out the bass properly with that kick. So I found the other one that's a little bit bass light compared to because it's got more treble, so it gives you kick, and it's got more high mids. So the high mids and the trebles have like more emphasis. So it sounds dynamic with that kick. Yeah. But then it's kind of bass light compared to that. The bass are like really decidedly neutral, but then they added the emphasis on the treble and the mids too much. You know, so if you didn't add that much of a kick on the treble and the high mids, and you kept this bass, perfect, that'd be fine. It's very neutral. But unfortunately, they added the emphasis on those two, but they didn't add anything to the bass, so now it's a little bit heavy on that side, so that's not balanced either. Yeah. And then so like sometimes I'm listening to the mids and the guitars, I can't hear the bass guitars anymore. I can hear the kick drums and then the mids really clearly in the guitars, but I just can't hear the bass drum, the bass guitar anymore. Whereas this one's more, I can hear a little bit everything, but then I can tell some things are muted, like the treble and stuff like that is a little more rounded off and muted, so I don't really like that either. So honestly, neither's really that perfect for me, and these aren't cheap headphones, so you know, I would rather just go for something else. So.
And out of all these, you would say the Fostex is your favorite?
I think I'm having the most fun with the Fostex. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Fostex is pretty tastefully done.
Mhm.
Like they added a little bit of bass to it, but not too much. And then everything else is pretty forward, and in a good way. You know, the Fostex reminds me a little bit of the PS1000s, from the Grados, which are like $2,500 headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a compliment. It reminds me a bit of the PS1000s, but a little bit less in your face. Yeah. So like those PS1000s were pretty crazy. So it reminds me a little bit like that, but a little bit less in your face.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the Fostex is pretty good. And then and I like and then those vocals are a little bit too chill too for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bass is sure the bass is a bit light, but it's all right. You know, but then everything else for me is more like I find the treble and then the high mids are too chill.
Okay.
That way. And then those Audio Technicas are just neutral and accurate.
But too much, right?
Yeah, maybe too much. But the thing is that boxiness sound. I'm not sure if that's accurate though, or is that just the smaller drivers that's causing the boxy sound? So that I'm not sure. Yeah. But then because sometimes smaller things will sound boxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just smaller.
Yeah. So it just sounds a bit boxy. But then the balance is very accurate. You know, everything is well represented, and it just sounds really accurate. It sounds lean because it's so accurate, so lean. But it also sounds boxy too. That's my problem. I don't mind lean, but it's that boxiness that bugs me. It feels like I'm listening out some type of tin radio speakers or really high quality tin radio speakers, you know, kind of like that. Yeah. So overall, if I had to pick, I think the Fostex would be like the best.
Yeah.
Overall thing.
Yeah, the most expensive is actually retail price is the Focals and the Beyer T1s. The T1s are actually their flagships.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The Fostex is it's like $500. It's fine, pretty good for the price, right?
Yeah. What country makes the Fostex?
Huh?
What country is the brand?
Japan.
Japan. Ooh.
Yeah. That's the two I had the 4 wooden Japanese headphones. I did a comparison.
Yeah.
There's 2 others. I don't know if you want to try them, but I personally don't really like them that much. The JVCs, which are a little bit too V-shaped for me, too much bass. The Denons are there's the Denon wooden ones as well. Find them just overall not as good as the Audio Technicas and the Fostex. So I felt like these two the best. But yeah, as you said, this one the Audio Technica probably it's because it's too small. So you get that kind of smaller sound out of it.
Right.
But I think it's pretty impressive for the size that is. It's pretty much the same size as those wireless headphones. I mean, yeah. So
well, it's pretty good for size.
So obviously, I think it's better than those wireless headphones you usually find.
I think for me though, because like those Audio Technicas, how much do they cost?
Same price, $500.
Yeah, I think for that price, there's a lot of options right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can probably find stuff I would like more for $500 than those Audio Technicas.
But I like the finish. It's got a good finish.
I know, exactly. That's the thing. That's why I kept listening over. I'm hoping I would like it because the finish is so nice.
Yeah.
I love that wood color, the gradient wood. Yeah. But then, I love that burnished wood look. But the only thing is, I think, for example, for something cheaper, the V motors actually sound pretty good.
Oh, better than this?
Could be. Yeah, the V motors actually were really dynamic. And why I'm bringing the V motors into there is because the V motors, like the on-ear headphones, which are much smaller, actually sounds pretty damn good. And they're much smaller.
I haven't tried this.
Yeah, so there's technically no excuse for the Audio Technicas to sound small because they're actually bigger than a lot of the on-ear ones.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't sound smaller than the other headphones at the same size.
Exactly. So like it should technically be able to still sound bigger than that, but but maybe it's just maybe that's the way it should be sounding neutrally. And we've just always been hearing stuff that are a little bit more less neutral. Yeah, maybe that's the way it should sound.
Maybe it's a little bit too neutral.
Yeah, it's a little too neutral, and then the voice just sounds a little bit boxy, tinny, and weird. The voice. It sounds kind of boxy and tinny. Yeah, like I'm comparing this to my ASWs, like those speakers that I have. In terms of like the actual sound, in terms of the balance of everything, those Audio Technicas actually sound pretty close to ASWs, except everything just sounds a little bit boxier and tinnier and smaller. That's the thing. The voice sounds a little bit too unnatural. It sounds kind of boxy. That's the problem, because that doesn't sound like that on the ASWs, obviously.
Well, maybe on their higher end headphones they have like Audio Technica goes like all the way to like $2,000.
Yeah,
so they have some pretty high end headphones.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, but for $500, man, like I would rather get a pair of like you want small and portable. I'll just get like the V motors, the on ears. I have a pair of those, and those actually sound like dynamic and pretty well like balanced and tasteful, and they sound pretty big, and they're much smaller. So
Yeah.
I mean, they're not very comfortable. That's all.
I'm surprised the focals. I actually found the focals. You said they were veiled. I didn't think they were veiled though. Like when I tried, I found they were like there's some decent clarity to them. I don't think they were that veiled.
I think just everything's a bit rolled off for the focals. They're more of a mellow headphone. So when you're rolled off, you will sound veiled. When you're rolled off. Yeah, especially compared to these ones, especially like this one. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. The Fostex is pretty good.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about those two. I didn't have any Fostex before, so I had no idea. But like testing them out, I was like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I don't remember ever tested Fostex. I've always heard of them. I don't remember ever tested.
They used to make headphone drivers for like Beyer Dynamic, not Beyer, Sennheisers and like other companies, and then they became their own brand.
Okay.
So they used to be like a supplier.
It's interesting because
Yep.
now using this one, it sounds totally different. Because the UA2s in general sound a little bit warmer than this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the UA2s are more bassier than this one too.
Yeah, this was a different DAC in it, so.
Yeah, so this one actually sounds more lean. Yeah. Much more
Well,
lean.
this DAC should be a lot higher end than the one in the Shamlings, so.
Okay, well this one's a lot more lean sounding.
Okay.
So it's more like kind of neutral lean sounding.
Yep.
And the UA2 is just more warmer.
Okay.
With a bit more bass. So now the Fostex, when you listen to this one, the Fostex actually there's not much of an overemphasis on bass at all anymore. So in a way, the Fostex now kind of sounds like the 1990s. Yeah, in a way, where like they actually kind of elevated the treble and the mid bass, and the upper bass a bit. Sorry, the treble and the upper mids they elevated a bit,
Yep.
so it sounds dynamic.
Yep.
But they didn't do too much of the bass. But overall, it's still good. Yeah, I like it. If that's the case.
If you're curious, you can try the Denons as well. I'm not sure if you like it as much, but you can try it. Also same price. And these Japanese headphones.
Denon. Denons are pretty good, man.
Oh, okay. What do you think compared to the other ones?
Actually, I like this between this and the Fostex.
Yeah, these ones have a bit more bass. So I thought if you're saying the Fostex doesn't have enough bass, this should have more bass than the Fostex.
Exactly. This has
Yeah.
almost everything that the Fostex had, plus a little bit more bass to balance it out.
Okay.
I actually think these are pretty nice.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know these ones definitely have a bit more bass. So I was like, maybe you might like the Denons.
These are pretty balanced. I like it. Pretty good. It depends on what you're listening to, though. When you were testing them, what did you listen to? Did you use this one to listen, or did you use something else? Because they sound totally different based on the sources.
I was using that. Yeah.
This one? Okay.
Yeah.
So with this one, actually, so far, I think I like these ones the best.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And then with the UA2, so the UA2 is more bassy and warm. The Fostex was pretty fun because the UA2 makes up for the Fostex actually not having that bass.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas when everything's neutral, I think these are actually pretty good.
Yeah, because these naturally have more bass.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I usually I usually use the high Bs, so because I don't really use the UHs that much.
Okay. Yeah, because the UA2 is just naturally bassy, right? So this is actually pretty solid. Yeah, I would definitely put this in consideration.
Okay, cool, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because like nothing was missing, and it's dynamic. You know, it hits. It's at the bass. Yeah, and nothing's kind of recessed.
Yeah, maybe when I was listening, I thought it was like a little bit veiled, and the bass was a little bit too much. But I don't know. Maybe I was.
No, I don't think the bass is that much. Not too much. At least not for this track. Depends on what track.
You don't think that the Fostex was more clear?
Let me do a AD again.
Yeah.
I gotta hit up this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be back. For dinner, I'll probably just stop by Subway to grab something. So, do you want to just get something like while I'm not here, and then?
Do you have any coupons for Subway?
Unfortunately, no. I've been waiting, nothing, man.
No.
I wish.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Subway, but
Yeah, I'm trying to stay healthy, so at least I get more veggies with Subway.
Oh yeah, try the Fostex versus the Denizen. I'm
Okay.
interested to see. I think the major difference just be the Denizen has more bass. But to me, like the Fostex has a little bit more clarity, and maybe soundstage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trying it. It's all preference to a bass, of course. I think you don't like the warmer sound signature a lot. I kind of like warm.
Exactly. Well, love is warmer preference, but I think this is my opinion though. Obviously, whether it's warm and neutral, that is opinion. But sometimes when it goes a little bit too far, then I think well, it still is an opinion. Obviously, it still is a preference, but that's when I can at least kind of like explain what the issue is. You know what I mean? Like when the drums are getting all rolled off and it's like it sounds like it's like rounded and warm, then that's where it's just weird because the drums don't sound like that, you know. And whether someone likes that, that's still a preference. But at least I can articulate exactly the issue there. Whether you like that issue or not, that's something else. But it's definitely not accurate. So that's the thing. Like people can like argue all they want about the voice sounds more organic because it's a voice, right? But the drums, we know what drums should sound like in real life. And that's where it gets.
Well, at least I have a neutral DAC and amp in the Hy-Vees. Fairly neutral, right? So yeah. I mean, I have a choice. I could have a warm one, or I could have a neutral one. So.
Exactly. Yeah, the Fostex is definitely they do sound more clear. Like the mids and the treble sound like more
That's
detail.
why I thought compared to Denon's. Yeah.
I hear more detail in them, but the bass just sounds like there's not much in the bass. I find.
I find that makes it more reference though, isn't it?
But it's just the other things were like the treble and the mids are so clear that it sounds like they're just a little bit elevated, just like the 1990s, like that. But then the bass they didn't add anything, so it would be nice if they added a bit more bass just to balance it out with how clear the treble and the mids were. That's the only issue. Yeah, because clarity a lot of times means that they elevated the treble and the upper mids a bit. That's how you get the clarity. But if you don't elevate the bass to match with that, then it sounds a little bit like top heavy compared to the bass. But the treble and the mids do sound very nice. On the Fostex, they sound very, very nice.
So what would you choose? The trebles and the mids on the Fostex or the bass on the Denons?
See, the problem is Denon is not even about the bass. Because honestly, I don't think the Denon's added that much bass.
Yeah.
For me, Denon is just more balanced.
Okay.
Yeah, like it doesn't have the clarity of the treble and the mids.
Yeah.
But then it sounds more cohesive, like one picture. Like when I listen to the song, I don't like in terms of pure clarity and detail. Yeah, Fostex wins out for sure. It's another level when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But then the problem is, because it didn't bounce at the bass, it feels like something's missing when I'm listening to my tracks. Whereas Denon, it doesn't have that ultra clarity, but everything is represented there, so everything sounds cohesive. Like I don't feel like I'm just listening to the song. That's it. I don't feel like anything's missing. Like I can hear the bass guitar, I can hear the drums if I really want to. Maybe the kicks on the drums are a little bit less on the Denon. Like they're not as like in your face the kicks. Unfortunately, because we're listening to Mitch Mitchell here, right? So I mean. Yeah, so the drum I think on the Denons is not quite as noticeable, but everything is just balanced and represented there, like a cohesive sound. This one, like the highs and the mids are pretty top notch, but I just feel like it's just like the 1990s. I feel like it's missing something. Actually, 1990s sounds similar to the Fostex. They both have top notch like treble in the mids, and they're both dynamic sounding. They sound so similar to 1990s and Fostex, but they both also don't have much of the bass, and then I don't find the bass is there to match up with it. Yeah. Whereas like the T1s, everything sounds like everything's there, but it also sounds a little bit like rounded off everywhere, a little bit warm, and also lack of sound stage where something is open. Yeah, but it's fun. It's like all there. And then of course it really depends on what you match it up with. Like for example, these actually sound really good with the UA2. The UA2s bring back that bass. Yeah. And then you still have the mids and the
right,
treble.
so that actually be perfect.
Exactly, that's pretty perfect using these with the UA2s. So, but then if you're using like this is like linear, then honestly, this one actually just gives you a cohesive sound, but you don't have that crazy detail and clarity of some of the other ones. So,
that's what I didn't like about it.
It's like, what do you want,
Well, which one would you personally choose?
I can't choose, man, because the problem is, I love the cohesive sound here, but at the same time, I also love the clarity here. I wish this one give me a bit more bass. It's perfect. Yeah. So I want the Fostex with a bit more bass.
Basically, Fostex with the UA2s.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty much.
Okay. Well, I guess we have a good combination.
Yeah.
We found it.
Yeah, at least you do have a combination.
Yeah.
So it's like, honestly, with these, I don't even really know if you really need any of the Beyers. I don't even know if you need the 1990s anymore with these because they sound pretty similar.
Well, then.
I have to do.
Well, I'm surprised actually because those are open backs. These are closed backs.
Well, they don't always have to sound different. I mean, it's just tuning, right? I mean, you can technically speaking, you can tune an open back to sound just like a closed back in way.
So you think the sound stage is similar even between the open back and the closed back?
I'll do the AB on that a little bit.
Yeah. Because the open back should have a bit more sound stage.
Normally, yes.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, technically speaking, you could tune an open back to have less sound stage. It's only the tuning, right? So it's like, because it's open back, it should have more if all things are equal. but I can tune all the other stuff to make it smaller, the soundstage. And that's why the T1s have a small soundstage, even though it's open back. Right? So it doesn't really matter about that. Because not like everything's equal between these two anyways, right? So they probably retune other stuff so the sounds about the same.
Well, then that's kind of better for closed backs, right? Because
yeah, it's more useful.
Because the thing about open backs is that it's supposed to have more soundstage, but then you're giving up the portability.
Exactly. However, the Fostex don't really isolate sound that well. Because it's more loosey to fit. So when you put it on, it doesn't isolate.
Yeah, but at least it doesn't leak sound though, because it's closed.
Exactly. So that you're not bothering other people too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But of course, the fact that let me try. Okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna listen to another track.
Interesting. I have to listen to. And my personal pick was the Focals and the Fostex, but now you brought the Denons in, so I have to test against the Denons again.
Yeah, but the Denons clearly are not as clear.
Yeah, that's the thing I didn't like about the Denons. I was like, it's not that clear, right? So.
Yeah, but it's just more cohesive.
Yeah. All right, so that was my friend's impressions of all these different headphones. And I'll go over each of them again and tell you guys my personal impressions, because I tested each of these headphones out again after my friend tested them out to see if I agreed with them or not. So it's interesting. Sometimes I agreed with him and sometimes I disagreed. So let's go over each. Start with the open backs first. So open backs in general are going to have a wider soundstage compared to closed backs. Not all the time, but in general they will, right? Because they have the air coming in, so it will create a more wider space in general. So let's start with the DT1990 Pros. So the Beyer Dynamic DT1990 Pros. I'll actually go over the pros and cons of each. So the pros of this headphone. These headphones have probably the most detailed highs out of any headphone I've ever listened to, at least out of this group. So very crisp, very detailed high end. The high end seems to be pushed up a bit more than usual. I think that's probably why it's so forward and present, but I love these for listening to especially electronic tracks and pop tracks, because yeah, it just, everything in the high end just comes out so crisp. So it sounds very lively, very dynamic. So that makes these headphones probably the best for listening to electronic music or pop music. Yeah, it's just, everything is just, it kicks, you hear the kicks so much, right? It's so prominent and it just makes it feel really fun. So yeah, these headphones, a lot of high end, very detailed, they're very fun sounding actually in that respect, very dynamic. And there is low end as well. Not too much, but there is definitely low end. So yeah, I like those aspects of it, and it's also very comfortable. So those are the positives. The negatives, I think this headphone has maybe a recessed mid-range, a bit of a recessed mid-range. And I think that's maybe pretty much it. Oh yeah, the soundstage is actually pretty good on these headphones too. So that's another pro. So yeah, good soundstage, very detailed highs, very crisp highs, which makes it sound very dynamic. Pretty decent lows. I really like the lows on this as well. My only con would be, yeah, I think the mid-range is a bit recessed. So that's my opinion of the DT190 Pros. Overall, very good headphones. Okay, so then the Beyer Dynamic T1 second generations, which are technically a higher model above from the DT190 Pros. I think these are Beyer Dynamic's flagship. I know they have the third generation now, but I chose the second generation because the third generation is just very different. Sound signature wise and impedance wise, very different. So these two are both high impedance headphones because it's Beyer Dynamic. They have a lot of high impedance headphones. These are 250 ohm. These are 600 ohms. So these are very high impedance. So the pros of this headphone, the pros is I think the mids are very detailed on these. So actually I think overall it's fairly detailed. So everything across the range, yeah, mids, highs, lows are fairly detailed. Has a bit of a bass push, but it's fine. It's done very tastefully, I think. And yeah, just very detailed across the entire spectrum. So I think out of all these headphones, probably these are the most detailed in general, I would say. So those are the pros. The cons, very high impedance, so you need to have a very good headphone amplifier to drive them, either a desktop class amplifier or a DAP, which is what I'm using. I'm using a Hy-B RS6 DAP to drive these. So yeah, they need a lot of power because they're 600 ohms. One potential con, my friend said that these are too warm sounding, and for me it definitely is a bit warm sounding. So by that I mean the highs, and actually overall, not just the highs, across the entire range, everything's a bit rolled off. so it sounds a bit mellow. And I think this could also be pro as well. Some people like this sound because it sounds very laid back, very relaxing. So it could be a pro as well. My friend said it as a con because he doesn't like too warm. But for me, it's a little bit, it's not a pro or a con. It's just that's just the sound signature. It's a bit of color on it, right? It's almost like plugging into a tube amp. So you get a bit of a warm sound, and also it sounds very relaxing and laid back because of that. So it could be a pro and a con, but some people might like it. But that's definitely one of the things I noticed about this headphone is that it does sound very warm. Another thing is another con is that the sound stage is not that big, considering this is an open back headphone. So I think some of these closed backs, like maybe the Focals, yeah, I think probably the Focals, maybe the Fostex sounds. The sound stage is pretty similar, these are closed backs, right? So you would expect closed backs to have smaller sound stage, but actually I don't think you have. I think that they're about the same, maybe even a little bit more soundstage on these guys. So the soundstage isn't very big for an open back headphone like this. And the DT190 Pros definitely have a bigger soundstage. And I think, by the way, the thing my friend didn't like about these ones, I think, was that there wasn't enough bass for him. But to me, I think these have enough bass. So personally, I disagreed with him about that. I think these have enough bass. He said it was a bit bass light. For these, he said it's too warm. I actually think the warm sound is fine. It makes it more relaxed, laid back sounding. So yeah, I think those are the cons. The soundstage is not that big, and the warmth could be an issue for some people because they don't like the rolled off highs or the rolled off frequency response in general. I think that's the main issue, and then plus that you need a lot of power to drive these. So yeah, but the pros it's fairly detailed across the range. So yeah, that's what I would say about these two Beyer Dynamics. Now we come to the closed backs. Okay, the Focal Elegias. The pros of these, I think it has the best sound isolation out of all of them, this being closed backs, but even compared to the other closed backs, these have the best sound isolation. I also think these are the most comfortable out of all these. So out of all these headphones, maybe except for these, the DT190 Pros are also very comfortable. But out of the closed backs, for sure, the Focals are the most comfortable for me. So yeah, just I can wear these for hours at a time, no problem. And the mid-range is quite nice. I like the mid-range. I think there's a lot of clarity and detail in the mid-range. So those are the good things about the Focals. The things I don't like, the cons, I think I would agree with my friend on this. He said that the treble or the highs is a little bit veiled, and I think that is true. And there's almost like the bass is very light, and it is like out of all these headphones here, I think this is the most bass light out of all of them. So yeah, like the bass is there, but it's very it's very light, so you can barely hear it. So I think that's a problem a lot of people had with the Elegias. They said there's not enough bass. So yeah, it is bass light. So that's kind of a con, I guess, to people who want to have a little bit of bass. It's fairly, I would say, balanced sounding other than that. The highs are a little bit veiled, and the bass I think is too light. They need to have a little bit more bass on this. Other people say it's it's very reference sounding in that sense, but I don't know. I think you need a little bit more bass. But yeah, that's pretty much the pros and cons of this one. Okay, the Audio-Technica WP900s. The pros, it's very small and portable, and it probably looks the best personally. Like it has this nice flame grain maple housing, so like in the ear cups, so I think it looks the best out of all of them. And I think the soundstage is very impressive given the size. Oh yeah, the Focals have pretty good soundstage as well, forgot to mention. So that's it's a pro as well. The soundstage is very decent on the Focals. But the soundstage on the Audio-Technica is very impressive given the size. It's not as much as the Focals or the Fostex or the Beyers, but I mean, for the size, it's quite impressive. And I guess another pro is that it's very, very neutral. These are very neutral headphones. Yeah, like for people looking for something that's close to a flat response, that's pretty much what this is. So yeah, that's probably the pros of it, is that it's got a very neutral sound signature, great looks, and a decent, very impressive soundstage for the size. Now the things I don't like about it is, I think my friend mentioned that he said it sounded a bit like boxy, or that sounded like a very high fidelity radio speaker, whatever if that thing even exists. I think what he means by that is that the highs, like the treble and the highs on these headphones can be, they can sound a little bit brittle or harsh to some people. So I personally don't mind it too much, but yeah, some people might think that the highs sound a little bit too brittle or harsh, or fatiguing. So yeah, that would be the cons of the Audio-Technicas. Yeah, the highs, people might not like it that much, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the pros and cons of this one. Next up, the Fostex TH610s. The pros of this one, it's got a fairly balanced sound signature, not as neutral as the Audio-Technicas, but it's still fairly neutral, and it's got a little bit of bass, not too much of it. So it's kind of similar to these Beyers in the sense like it's got a bit of bass, not too much of it. So it's still fairly balanced sounding. And that, by the way, that's a pro of these Beyers as well, is that it's fairly balanced sounding. So it's very reference quality, I would say, and same with these, very reference quality. So it's definitely for people looking for something that's kind of not a completely neutral sound signature. I think that's a con of the Audio-Technica. It could be a con, right? Is that it's too neutral, and that might be a pro of the Fostex and the Beyers, is that they do add a little bit of bass, but still keep the rest of the sound signature relatively neutral. So that's nice, and pretty decent soundstage, I would say. And I would say fairly detailed as well. There's got a lot of clarity in these headphones. So I think overall I like these a lot. So it's fairly clear, good clarity, balanced sound signature, decent soundstage. So overall it's very nice. The cons of this one, it's a bit of a loose fit. So when I put it on my head, I can tell it doesn't clamp down as hard as the other headphones. So it's got a kind of a looser fit. And I guess another thing is, like, my friend said the bass is a little bit too light on this, and he said the same thing about the Beyers too. And actually these two have a little bit of similar sound signature. The major difference to me is that the DT1990 Pros have those crisp highs, super detailed crisp highs. Fostex doesn't exactly have that. And yeah, the mid-range is a bit recessed on the Beyers. That's not the case on the Fostex. I think the mid-range is very good on the Fostex, but the highs are not quite as detailed as the Beyers. So yeah, but overall I think this is a very nice reference quality. I personally think the bass is enough. My friend said it's too light. I think it's enough based on this. So yeah, I actually really like these. So my only major con would be that the soundstage is nice for closed back. Obviously, it still doesn't compare to the Beyers because these are open backs. So the soundstage is very good for closed backs, but doesn't really compare to open back still. And then the fit, right? It's a bit loose. And that's pretty much it. Okay, then finally we come to the Denon D5200s, which my friend liked the best out of all these, which is ironic because I actually like these the least. So he likes it because he said it's basically just as balanced as the Fostex, except the bass is more. So like Denon definitely adds more of a bass push than the Fostex does. Definitely more bass than the Focals, and probably comparable to the Beyer T1s. So definitely has a bit of a bass push, and because of that but not too much of it. It's not too much bass, it's not overwhelming, it's not bloated like the JVCs, basically, like I said in my previous video. So it's not bloated bass or anything, it's probably pushed up just enough, where it's not overwhelming but done tastefully. So my friend likes it because of that. He said it's very balanced and it has the bass push that he didn't have on the Fostex and Elegias. But for me, the main con of this, so let's go over the pros actually first. The pros are is reasonably comfortable, decent soundstage, and like my friend says, it's a balanced sound signature with a bit of a bass push. So it's basically like the Fostex, and maybe the Beyers as well, but with a bass push on it. So it's basically adding a bit more bass. So for people who like that, then I think, yeah, the Denon is probably the way to go because it's fairly referenced with a bass push is basically how I would call it. The thing I don't like about it, and this is the reason I like this the least out of all these headphones, is the clarity. So the Denons sound a bit veiled to me, like just all across the range sound a bit veiled, especially compared to the Fostex and the Focals actually. So compared to these two, yeah, I mean the Audio-Technicas are fairly detailed as well, But yeah, especially the Fostex and the mid-range on the Focals, those are fairly detailed. So when I listen to the Denons, it just sounds more veiled to me. So because I like clarity, because I like to have more detail, that's why I didn't really like these. So yeah, I mean, the fact that my friend liked it because it's a balanced sound signature with a little bit more bass as he likes. But for me, it just doesn't, that does not outweigh the fact that these are it's not as detailed as some of these other headphones. So yeah, that's my main con about this one, and that's why I don't really like it. It's probably, in my opinion, the most veiled out of all these headphones. So it's got the least amount of detail out of all these headphones. So that's why I don't like this. But that's my opinion on all these headphones. So the verdict is, out of the closed backs, my personal favorite is the Fostex TH610s. My only con would be that it has a bit of a loose fit, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the soundstage not being as big is fine because it's a closed back. It sounds a bit more intimate, but everything else, I really like it. It's very, to me, this is very balanced sounding. It's not quite neutral, but it's fine because it's, I think it's all across the board, it's very balanced. There's no unnatural push in any frequency to my ears, and it sounds very detailed, pretty much in all frequencies. So yeah, I have not much bad things to say about the Fostex. I really like these. So these are probably my pick out of these ones. And yeah, I think it's a pretty easy decision actually out of these ones for me. The Fostex for sure wins. And then for the open backs, it's a bit of a harder decision because these two are they're very different. But they're very different, but very good in their own ways. So the DT1900 Pros, I really like for the exciting sound signature. The highs are so detailed. I love it. It's got the best highs out of any of these headphones. Just so good with electronic tracks, and so comfortable. And soundstage is really nice. So I really do like these. But then the T1s. The interesting thing about the T1s is that using the unbalanced cables normally that comes with it, yeah. Just using the unbalanced cable, I can sense that it is a bit too warm, and because of that, all the frequencies roll off a bit too much, and it's a little bit too laid back, or is a bit too laid back for some people. But once I changed this to a balanced cable, I had a set of balanced cables for this, and I tried out the balanced cable in my DAP, which has higher output and everything. Once I did that, these really opened up more because these are 600 ohm headphones. They need a lot of power to drive them. So of course, usually with a balanced output, you have more power on tap. So when you add more power to this, it really opens up the sound stage and opens up the dynamics of this headphone. So once I used a balanced cable on this, it really gets interesting. Like the sound stage expands more, maybe not quite to this level, but definitely better, bigger sound stage. And yeah, the amount of warmth in it is it gets a bit leaner in its presentation. So not as warm as with the unbalanced cables. It gets a little bit more leaner in the presentation, and I feel like it's more dynamic. So it becomes a little bit more like this headphone. So this is the interesting thing. So unbalanced cables, yeah, I get it. It's a bit too warm and rolls off a little bit too much. But once you add a balanced cable to this, you start powering it with balanced, yeah, then it opens up more, starts to become more like this one. So it starts to be more dynamic, bigger soundstage. And that's when I thought, okay, these are actually really good with balanced cables. So really, yeah, it basically comes down to that. Unbalanced cables, just everything unbalanced, yeah, I'll pick the DT1900 Pros. If I have an amplifier or a source with a balanced output, then I'll use the T1s. I think these ones are superior if I have the balanced output. Okay guys, that's basically my opinion and my friend's opinion of these headphones. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Basically my personal pick is the Fostex, my friend's pick is the Denon, and then for the closed backs and for the open backs, my friend doesn't like either of these for open backs, but I would say for me it depends. For a regular, if you have a regular unbalanced source, then the DT1900 Pro is probably my pick. If you have a balanced output, then the Beyer Dynamic T1 second generations are my pick. So that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any comments, and as always, thanks for watching.